Welcome. I'm Pat Soldano. I'm president of Families USA, and I'm very pleased to have with me today Mark Peters, who is CEO and owner of Butterball Farms. Welcome, Mark. Really appreciate you having on the call today.
Hi, Patricia. I'm actually super excited to be here. Thank you.
Great. Well, what we want to talk to you today is obviously the business, Butterball Farms, but also the family, because the family plays a really important role in any family business, as you well know. So maybe you could give us a brief history of the family and the family business. And I know it's a very interesting story because you've written this book called The Source, in which you outline some of the, I encourage people to get that book and read that story. But on today's call, I'd like you to just share with the audience a little bit of the background.
Sure. Yeah, I've learned a little bit about family businesses because I've gone out and talked about our family story. And I think what I've learned is that a lot of family businesses we're more similar than those of us that are in them think we are. So my dad founded our business in 1956. He had an idea about butter with designs on it. The innovative challenge that he overcame was that butter is somewhat like water in that it expands when you try to mold it. And so it's difficult to get out of a mold. Things like soap and chocolate tend to shrink when they cool. And so they're much easier to remove from whatever the molding material is. He managed to overcome that in the mid 50s, early 60s, and that was really the basis for the business that we have today. And I tell people that the business we have today is value-added butter products and related sort of fat-based products because we do far more than just the design butters. We do a lot of compound butters. We do blends and spreads and things like that for some of our larger customers. So, and we are also now a retail as well as food service supplier. So, yeah, my dad ran the business. I tell people he ran it till he was 86. He died at 86, and he was dictating letters from his hospital bed literally days before he passed away. And I'm sure there are many of your members who can relate to that kind of first generation ownership, being, so integrally involved in the business until the very last days of their lives. I started working in a business when I was 12. Again, a story that I've learned resonates with a lot of people is my dad said to me at the end of my 12's got to be what, middle school? He said, "No more summers at our family cottage for you. It's time to go to work." So I was sweeping floors at the plant at age 12, and have been involved with the business almost ever since. I worked for a couple of other companies, in my early 20s and whatnot, but so I've been in it a long time, and I have a little bit different vision for my daughter. I don't have siblings in the business, which is different from a lot of second generation companies. And I only have one child. So I also am now looking at sort of the cousin consortium model that a lot of ultimately third generation companies end up with. So I don't have some of those kinds of pressures that I know a lot of other families do.
Well, and I know you've been in business 60 years or over 60 years, which is a long time. And I know during that time, you have employees that have stayed on generation after generation. And I think that's it's a fascinating story. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we have some long-term employees, but we also have an internship program that we kind of encourage. Again, being in a food processing business, you have a lot of entry-level folks that come to work for you. And so we thought, as part of the impact that we want to have with the business, if we can encourage people's kids to come and have this internship program. And ultimately, we've had some of our employees' kids who've gone through that have been hired in to work for our company. So we've had the situation where we've had somebody on our HR team whose mother is still working on our plant floor in a team leader capacity. And we've had a few of that. I've had some of my nieces come and work in the business, and they're not part of the business anymore. But yeah, so it's kind of a fun thing to have these people that enjoy working for the business enough to have their kids come and work for us as well.
Well, and so why don't you talk a little bit about the community support? Because I know that's very important to you, and I know that have supported the community in many ways, and you can talk a little bit about the source if you want to do that, but explain, because most family businesses like yours are very involved in their community, and they do a lot of giving to the community. In fact, 76% of all family businesses give as opposed to nationally. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
You know what, Patricia, I think you might have just asked me my favorite question. Because what I think a lot of family business owners miss is the impact that they have with the enterprise. So for us, we have about 180 employees right now, and every day they show up, we have an impact on the experience they have. And if we own that realization, and we create an environment that is healthy and enables them to grow and have opportunity, that's a huge amount of impact. I mean, behind every single one of those people that come to work for us is a family structure of some kind. And the fact that they're earning a living in a way that helps them become more stable and more productive it's a huge piece of the impact. We tend to think of the impact that we have as business owners in terms of the volunteering that we get to do in a community, or the donations we get to make with the proceeds from the profits of the business. And that's all very, I mean, it's great, and it's important work that we need to do in our communities. But the impact that we have in the lives of the people that come to work for us, day after day, year after year, generation after generation, is so much greater than the impact we can have with 10% of our profits.
Yeah, that's amazing and so important. You're right. So not only are you giving back to the community, you're helping the employees and they're giving back as well. So that's really important.
And in addition, I mean, you think of the disciplines it takes to run a business, and the discipline of sending orders out on time, of meeting your commitments, of doing all of these things. And these are all things we all struggle with in our personal lives. I mean, the discipline of sticking with a workout program, whatever it is. But being able to provide those as examples of behavior are also ways we have impact in people's lives. We just don't tend to think about it that way.
Yeah, so maybe you can talk a little bit about, and I know we're going to do a separate webinar, the book that you wrote, The Source, but maybe you could just talk to us a little bit about what it is and how it came about.
Oh yeah, thank you. So in trying to figure out a way to have a little bit more impact in the lives of people that come to work for us, I started to realize that our health insurance plan, 401k, those kinds of things didn't address some of the complexities in people's lives that came to work for us. And they were struggling with childcare, transportation, housing, all kinds of things that our benefit plan doesn't touch. And, we're not a human service organization, we're a business. And at that point in time, in the late 90s, I was not only was I a small business, we were not very profitable. So it wasn't like I had a big budget to go, you know, do all this stuff to help people. So I set out to do it in collaboration with other businesses. And so what the source is basically, it's a 501c3, and it's made up of member companies that we pay dues to the source. And the source is really the expert at taking care of some of those needs our employees have, that our other benefit plans don't touch. And basically what that does is it differentiates us as an employer, because people come to work for us, and then when they have some of these other needs in their lives, there's a resource that helps them solve that so that they can stay at work, and continue. That's helpful for us, clearly, but it's also helpful for them because they don't have a loss in earnings, and they get these problems solved quickly, from a trusted and knowledgeable relationship, which is really what the source does, and our HR team doesn't have to do it, and nor should we ask them to do it.
Exactly. And it's objective, independent organization from the company. Employees really like that, right?
Yes,
So they can go somewhere that's separate and independent.
exactly. Yep.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about taxes and economics and Congress. Family businesses struggle differently in corporate America, because corporate America in today's tax world gets to pay a 21% income tax rate, and family businesses pay 30 to 35%, because most of them operate as a pass-through entity, an S corp or an LLC or LP. So in some ways they're more impacted by tax, certainly impacted by government regulations, but that's true of all businesses. And so I would just ask you if there is anything in particular that you think Congress could help you run your business better, help you deliver a better service, a better product, help you serve your employees better, and your community better.
Yeah, that's just for disclosure, we're a C corp, and we have been for a long time. So we don't have some of the pass through things, although as you and your members are well aware, that in terms of getting cash out of the C corp, there's other challenges relative to total tax and all the rest of it. I think that from a tax perspective, I think the family businesses of this country, we kind of get vilified along with the Fortune 100 companies. We get sort of by the press and possibly the policymakers, we kind of get lumped into that same class as wealthy business owners that are just extracting wealth, and we need to put a stop to that. And the fact of the matter is we're diligently working in our businesses and taking care of those people that work for us. And a lot of times they're like family to us, and it's a different kind of relationship we have with the people that work for us. But I do think that, I'll give you one example, and it's a little bit old now, but it was all the regulation that came out of the Enron stuff, and the amount of cost that compliance has added to my business since all of that, just in terms of what we have to pay our CPA firm every year to do reviewed statements. You don't think of that as a tax, but it's a cost, and it's a cost of regulation. We're in the dairy business. The cost of regulation has continued to go up. The cost of the requirements that our customers ask for us, because they have to comply with the regulation. And I'm sure it's the same in every industry. It's super easy for our policymakers to go out and create new sets of regulations to protect something that happened. And they don't really think through the implication of what that does to, our small to mid-market companies that are trying to be suppliers in this world. And every time they add cost, it requires us to make financial choices in our businesses. And they're not usually great choices.
Exactly. And that's a really good point. And what we have learned is family businesses actually treat their employees better, they pay them better, and they give them better benefits than non-family businesses. And we need to remind legislators that that is the case. And they do that for the reasons that you just outlined. Is it because they understand how important and significant their employees are to operation of their business and to the longevity and the legacy of their business, which family businesses operate as a legacy, and that's not necessarily the case in non-family businesses. So it's really, really important.
To add to that, I think one of the really beautiful things about family business is, I have some peers that own family businesses as well, and we talk about it in terms of patient capital. Like, we don't have, yeah, we like good quarterly results like everybody else, but we're not driven by quarterly results. We're not always driven by annual results. There are years that we take less margin because we think there's a better long-term purpose for why we're doing what we're doing, and we have a longer time horizon. And I just think that's one of the great things about family enterprises, especially multi-generational enterprises, that a lot of people truly don't understand.
You're absolutely right. And a lot of those people are legislators. So I think you're aware, Family Enterprise USA, to elevate the importance and the knowledge of family businesses, we're helping Congress to form a Congressional Family Business Caucus. Because so many times when I talk to members of Congress, I say family business, they say, oh, you mean small business? And I said, no, not necessarily. They're small, medium, and large size businesses. Family businesses, businesses that operate from generation to generation and give their community, as a legacy. So I think that's really, really important. We're very excited about this Congressional Family Business Caucus, and we're getting a lot of members that are excited as well. So hopefully we change that view of family businesses.
Yeah, that's great.
So Mark, is there anything you wanted to add in terms of this conversation today that maybe I haven't asked you or you haven't commented on?
It's a great question. If anything, I thank you for having this opportunity, but just encourage the multi-generational family businesses to stay at it, because there's a richness that we bring to work, to our communities, and to people's lives, and it's a fight worth having. So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing to enable us to continue what we're doing.
Well, I appreciate that. We appreciate you being on the call today. So thanks so much, Mark.